Good morning. Thought I'd just start a few minutes early since Carol was here to talk to. I hope. Are you going to be around, Carol? Some. Hopefully you can hear me. Let me know if I'm too. Let me know if that's not loud enough. Or the reason I was asking was I was going to talk a little bit about my next Saturday guest. Hopefully in the next week or so. Gotcha. I hope you can make the weekend that I talked to my. Thank you, Carol. That's good. Last night, reason I was asking was I was talking to our teacher friend who's going to come on the show in a week or two, and nose is itching. And she said she was having trouble hearing me, but she was walking around outside with a phone, and I'm not sure that wasn't part of the problem. But I think you'll enjoy that show. I hope you do. She's really excited about it. I tried to allay some of her anxiety by telling her it's probably not going to be that big a deal. But who knows? Maybe we'll get some views on it. And, I just know that she's really looking forward to it. Oh, she's the one that's going to be doing the outdoor education program. Good morning, Kay. Good to see you. I'm not sure yet, Carol. It might be. Is that a bad day for you? Because I want to try to make sure I can get you and um, maybe a couple other people in. What, Teddy? What's the matter? You want to come up here and say hi to Carol? Hang on a minute. Let me turn around. Here, I'll pick you up. Ah, good boy. Say hi, Miss Carol. You gonna say hi? Meow, meow, meow. Say hi. Before I look at the camera before I put you down. Oh, you are stubborn. What happened to you? You were such a camera hog before. Down he went. What days are those, Carol? Is that the next two Saturdays? That's my luck. Be my luck. Sorry, guys. My footrest moved. I can tell it's already gonna be a rough one. My backside's already hurting. Don't encourage him, Carol. Oh, I think what the problem is, Carol, is he's wanting me to go sit on the couch. I went over there a while ago to sit down for a few minutes uh, to lay down whatever, take some Tylenol, give my backside a rest, and he wanted to get up in my lap. Well, he got up in my lap, but I couldn't stay with just a few minutes because Brenda came back and she was leaving, and so I had to get up and I had to put him down, and he didn't like that. He wasn't ready to get down. Were you, bud? He'll lay there and sleep half the day if I let him. Oh, well, congratulations, Carol. Tell you how bad I am. I don't even know. So that would be next weekend then. Okay, well, let not open. There it is. Oh, the third's Monday. Oh, the second's your anniversary. So Sunday. Well, I'm not sure yet because she hasn't given me a firm date. I'm trying to be very flexible with her right now. She's been very busy with her class. She's had to do some um, extracurricular paperwork, let's say, for some different things. She's in Cobb County, Georgia, and not to beat that dead horse too much, Georgia's kind of messed up in that regard. So in Cobb County, every county down there is different, I guess, and so for her to have her school, she just has a lot of what I thought were interesting hoops to jump through. Hey, babe. There's Brenda. If you're driving, how are you texting? Yeah, I'm hoping that's just by voice. I'm sure it is. Unless you pulled over for some reason. Carol said happy birthday in advance. Oh, that was to Kay. Don't know why I felt the need to read that. We don't have any birthdays. Yeah, let me know what you find out once you get up there and you have a chance to call me. Well, actually, I want you to call me when you get up there. This is football day, so there's probably a lot of traffic on the road. Okay. Good morning, Diana, and welcome in. I'm back to the other topic a minute, Carol. I'm hoping that I can get Mark's wife to come in, or not necessarily to say anything, but to set in on it because she's in early child care education too, out in Wyoming. Hey, John. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, John. I wasn't aware of that. I guess I haven't been paying attention. We've had Brenda's mom's been in the hospital the last few days, so that's kind of kept us a little bit in the DL, as they say today. We just kind of been standing by the phone, and she's been communicating with her and the doctors and whatnot, trying to figure out exactly when things were going to happen and what they found. So I'm sorry to hear that. We'll miss you. Now, Brenda's got to drive about 90 miles, I guess, 80 miles, 90 miles from here up to where her mom's at in the hospital up there, and she'll be driving her home and taking her home. And I don't know if how long she'll stay, if she'll need to stay overnight, or if she'll be home. Probably be home this evening, but we'll see. She may be going back. Time will tell. Oh, maybe I did know that, John. I don't know. I was thinking now that you said it's been Saturday out, maybe I did remember that. Ian, welcome in, sir. Running a minute late. Okay, how does that work exactly? Ian, which one's which and which hurricane's doing what now? Well, won't your hurricane be long? Wait a minute now. Is your daughter in that part of Canada? Okay, so her hurricane's already hit. Oh, that one. Oh, Ian. Okay. What's the one that's going up the coast right now? That's hitting eastern. I didn't realize you had a daughter in Lakeland. Ian, I'm sorry. You probably told me, and I just Swiss cheese brain here just lost it. Yeah, that one looks like there's a real good chance it's going to hit Florida. Lakeland will probably be on the edge of that. I mean, that's far enough north that it might not be too bad. Oh, Carol, I'm sorry. Maybe next year. Fiona is up in Canada. Did you guys get anything off that, John? Well, I know you can't stay but a minute. I know it ran along the coast there. I don't know how much you guys got off of it. It tried to beat the crap out of Bermuda. And I was actually kind of impressed. Bermuda apparently has been building for hurricanes for a long time, so they don't have a lot of damage other than power lines, which I'm really surprised aren't underground. Well, I think, John, don't you think it's nice, though, that we share hurricanes with our neighbors to the north once in a while? We get all the fun down here. Oh, was it 600 miles off? I didn't realize it was that far. I thought it was closer than that. Well, you guys were probably outside most of the bands. The other day they were saying it was 400 miles wide, so maybe you didn't get too much off of it. Maybe it'll drive some fish your way. I don't know, how does that work when hurricanes do go up the coast? Do you get a change in fishing? I mean, do the fish come in, go out, hang around? You know, sometimes it's funny. Sometimes storms will cause fish to start biting, or so it's 600 miles from there. I get it.
Welcome to the season shift and the seasons changing.
Well, that'll be a little bit rougher if it does hit as a cat too. I was pretty sure it was going to smack Orlando. I didn't know if it was going to get all the way up to Lakeland or not. Unless there's more than one Lakeland. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong city, but the Lakeland I can think of is not too far south of the Georgia border. Big waves and wreck currents. Danger. Yeah, it is dangerous. I get that. Brenda would like to go down. Kay, are you close enough to? Well, you're not at the coast. Brenda's been talking about wanting to go down after a hurricane for a long time to look for seashells after one, after it churns and burns up through there. I'm not sure people in a disaster zone would really appreciate shell hunters showing that, but okay. Well, I'm thinking the wrong. Maybe I'm thinking Lake City. I don't know. Here you think you know a place and you get your towns mixed up. I'm going to look it up. Bear with me. I believe you. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm thinking of. There's a town or a city right along the I-75 corridor. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was Lake City. You're absolutely correct. I was in the wrong city, Ian. My bad. I was thinking of Lake City. We have a Lake City up here too, and So I forget there's one down there also. Yeah, I thought you guys usually did. Kay, do you remember back when Hugo came through? That came pretty far inland. Did you guys get a lot of damage from that? Good morning, Mike Cabral. Hey, I got the donuts, but Teddy ate them all. Let me correct that. He doesn't agree. In fact, I gave him a bite of ham earlier. He didn't even want that. Actually, it was so-called Canadian bacon, but I don't even think he ate that. So, Carol, I've got a couple. If you're really interested, I've got a couple of those. She gave me some names of some schools and other people who are running similar programs, and a couple of people that she actually has studied under to do this, gone to visit, spent some time, that sort of thing. I like donuts. Bears like donuts a lot, Mike. I don't know if you're aware of that. Honey buns, donuts, that sort of thing. It's what they bait bear traps with all the time. And in this case, I'm talking about safe ones. I'm not talking about those big giant man eater things, which really weren't that much of a thing anyway, except on TV and the movies. Oh, bear with me, folks. I gotta adjust my position. Bears love marshmallows. Well, yes, we do, especially when they're roasted over an open fire. Bear with me, guys. I may have to get a pillow. Donuts. Donut Mike. Okay, I made some adjustments. We'll see how long I last. You too, John. I want to say have a great day. I hope you have a better day at least. I don't know what you say when somebody's going to a funeral. I want you to have a great day, but I understand if you might not. Maybe that should be my topic of discussion today. What are the correct salutations and greetings and goodbyes? Oh, I missed something. My buddy lost his house in Homestead, Florida. Oh, yeah, Andrew was bad down there. It flattened a lot of South Florida. It's. I'll be honest with you. I don't know why anybody would want to be down there, but was he okay? He lost his house, but was he okay? Well, John's gone. Hopefully, he was survived and his family. I'm looking at you. I'm trying to figure out Diana and Mike's logo or whatever you call it, thumbnail picture there. I can't really tell what they are. Is that that's the castle. And that's the castle. Okay, different angles. Gotcha. I thought that's what it was, but I didn't want to say that and then be embarrassed. Not that I'm not embarrassed a lot, but so anyway, Carol, back to my other topic. She's really excited. She's a talker. I hope I get an word or two in edgewise. I really hope that if you have any questions, we can get some of those answered. And oh, good, Mike, cool. I think the castle is beautiful when it's in that decor, and even more so now than the last time we saw it. But we have seen it pretty much lit up for Christmas about like that. Man, how many Tylenol can you take before your ears start to ring? But if you're interested, Carol, I can send you a couple of links to ahead of time, and you'll have a head start. Like I said, I obviously this may mean nothing to you. I realize you don't set the standards for schools up there, but you never know. It might be something you want to talk about. And she's got some, I think, really good ideas. Um, some people aren't going to agree with them. I'm trying to think if I would say that, if I would agree or disagree. I actually agree. I think what she's doing and what the idea is, I think, is really good. This idea of forest schools or outdoor schools didn't start here. I think Germany and parts of Europe claim to have been the ones who started it. Not sure if that's proven, but I guess they've got seniority and that sort of thing, so they probably get the nod. But she has studied them a lot, a couple places over there, and in the UK, she has worked with a lady in Scotland. I don't know if she said she went. She may have gone over there and met her when she was starting her school up, and then there was another lady out in Washington State who still has a program. She passed away, unfortunately, but she has a pretty well established program out there that's, I guess, growing. I don't know a lot of details about it. We talked about it last night, and she gave me a walking tour of her outdoor classroom. And I don't want to tell you everything about it, but she's got an area of wooded, slightly wooded area and she's been planting all native plants and that sort of thing in there. And she calls part of it, Brenda, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Chickadee. Is it Chickadee Woods? And then she's also fortunate to live close to Kennesaw Mountain State Park, which is unfortunate. Well, not unfortunately, it's a Civil War park actually, but they were able to go there and spend time, I guess once or twice a week, and get to do some stuff in a different environment, which is really cool. And I don't know. I think kids that have those opportunities, as opposed to just a typical daycare or kindergarten, I think might grow up to be really good, potentially at least really good citizens, or have a different perspective on learning that I think in the long run could pay dividends. I don't know. We'll see what you think of it, Carol, after you hear about it. Like I said, she's very enthusiastic. She does run on a bit, so I may have to slow her down some, but but everything she says, it's because she's so passionate about what she does. Nuthatch Woods. Thank you, Brenda. Excuse me. That's the last time I'll ask you to respond, because I know you're driving. Hopefully, you're not having to pull over every time I ask you a question. And I know you're not texting and driving, so I might try that, but you wouldn't. I will, Carol. In a bit, I've got some of them open here anyway, and I'll send them to you on IG or something. And I don't know. Like I said, I'm curious that once she comes on, I'm curious to see what you think about it. And like I said, I'm hoping Shauna can come on and maybe invite some of her teachers out there to come on. It's going to be, it's 8:00 on a Saturday for them. Not quite as bad as Garrett and Michelle, but they probably are used to getting up early anyway. Well, thank you, Mike. You know what? I'm going to wear that with like a badge of honor. Trust me, she can out-talk me. I guarantee you that. She's a faster talker than I am, for one thing. Well, Brenda, if you can still send a message, tell Mike Cabral if you think who you think talks more, me or Angie. Put it this way, I was on a private chat with her last night. I invited her into a like this. Only it was private, not public, because she'd never done this before. She's done Zoom calls, and she wanted to show me around her classroom, indoors and outdoors. She's got a really nice indoor setup too. And we were on the phone from a few minutes after 6 till a few minutes after 9, maybe, or maybe 9 o'clock. And I don't know if I spoke 20 words. I'm going to write this down, guys. I'm going to remember who you are. No, I'll tell you something. If you think I can talk a lot, you wait till she gets here. I promise you, she's a as somebody used to say, she's a blue ribbon hog when it comes to being able to talk fast and a lot. But it's like I said, it's intelligent conversation. I babble and talk about things that aren't always important, or at least not always in a learning sense. Is another gentleman taught me years ago when I was growing up, was I always said, if you can't dazzle them with intelligence, make sure you baffle them with BS. So, when I run out of intelligence, I just I pitchfork a few piles of bull crap on there, and that helps. Good morning, Dave. How are you in beautiful Georgia? I was on the phone last night with a lady who's going to be on the show in a week or two. She was actually going to be on this morning, and that's one of the reasons why I don't have another topic. That, in fact, at Brenda's mom and everything's been going on there, I just didn't have time to sit down and really think about a project or something good. Plus, Mark. Well, this is not why, but Mark's not going to be here today. So if anybody's here for Mark, I guess Ian, if you just here for Mark, I guess you can go ahead and leave now. Mark is out somewhere in the wild open of Wyoming, guiding veterans of. Oh, I don't know if they're all Middle East vets or not, but anyway, he's out with 2 or 3 of those guys, and they're taking them on a hunt today. He does that a few times a year with vets. Hey, Brian, welcome in. So they're out hunting this weekend. I don't remember what they're out after either. I don't know if it's deer or elk. Pretty sure it's not a moose. Pretty sure it's not antelope. I think that season's over. So it's probably, it'd almost have to be deer or elk. So I'd actually wanted to be out there for at least one of those hunts this year, and I'm not going to make it. Yeah. Not to go hunting. I just wanted to go sit around the campfire and tell stories. Now that, Mike, you can believe. You never had any, Brian? Yes, he does, Mike. Well, hunting, of course, is only during the season, but he takes. Wyoming has a deal now, and I don't know how many other states are doing this. I bet they're not the only one, but you can take a resident out there, like Mark is now. I mean, he was before, but he's not just gaming wild or fishing game. He's just a civilian like the rest of us. But you're allowed to take your tag, whether you get drawn for one, if I'm correct, or if you just buy one across the counter, which like I can't go out there and do. I mean, as a non-resident, but you can give them. If I was a qualified vet, they can give me their tag. So non-qualified vets can come out there basically and hunt for free. They might have to buy a regular hunting license. I'm not sure, but that's not very much money. And they probably don't do that either. They probably get that somewhere else. And some of it is done through Wounded Warriors, and some of it is just word of mouth through them. He's been doing this now for several years, and more than I realized. And his son by marriage, has already had several guys out. A couple of weeks ago, I know they took early September. He had some guys that came in from somewhere back east here, and they were out for antelope or out for elk. They might have had cow elk tags, and I know there was a guy out there last week, I believe, who was going out with Sammy, and he was out there for, I think he had a bow ticket for, I think he was also hunting elk. But yeah, he does it every year. Him and his son, by marriage, Sammy, and some of the other former game and fish folks out there do this every year. Mark got started on it because of I don't know if it was a personal friend or had something to do with, like the suicide hotline, the number of vets that were passing away. Mark's not, he'd probably kill me for telling this on him. Mark's never been in the military. He's kind of like me. He kind of he came of age, and two things happened. He came of age between wars, and then his dad was a 10-year Marine, and Mark always wanted to join the Marines like Dad, and Dad wouldn't hear of it. And as Mark says, as a dutiful son, he obeyed what his dad wanted. Now, if his dad had left, passed away or something, he'd have probably been in. He actually did go to sign up after September 9/11. Let me get this right. After 9/11, but by that point, they said he was sort of past the age they were looking for, and they had plenty of other people signing up that were much younger, so he didn't go. He and a workmate of his went out and signed up, or tried to sign up. There's part of him feels guilty about that, and there's part of him that says it's, he did what his in this case his dad wanted. His dad spent 2 tours in Vietnam, and every time a Marine recruiter or somebody came to talk to Mark when he was in high school, his dad sat at the other end of the table, and after he told him everything they could do for him, his dad told him what that really meant in soldiers' terms, at least when he was in the Marines. So he had while he loves the Marines and what they stood for and all that, he didn't want Mark to go. Yeah, a lot of people did, Mike. A lot of people did. I mean, I'll admit it crossed my mind, but I was way past the due date. So, plus I was already gimped up. I don't think I could have gotten through the physical, much less basic training. But that's kind of how it goes. But he really enjoys doing it, and I know they got there. Let me think how many days. I believe these guys arrived, and this guy may be from North Carolina too. I'm not sure. I think they arrived Thursday afternoon, and they were going to be gone through the weekend. I'm not sure when they're coming back in, but I'm sure they're going to have a big time. Or they actually may be close enough at their camp, they're basing out of the house. But I'm not positive of that. And they have different hunt areas, and tags are for different spots out there. It's different than it is back here. And so I'm not sure what areas they drew for this year, but I don't think he's taking a bow or a gun with him. I think he's strictly going as a tag along cook and sit around the campfire kind of guy. Mark's hunted all of his life, and he's done a lot of that since he went to Wyoming, but he's also had to put down a lot of animals that were injured or wounded or hit by trucks or disease and whatnot in his career. And I think he said that's kind of cooled his bloodlust, if you will. He still appreciates people who hunt respectfully, but he doesn't necessarily, do it himself. Not that he wouldn't, but he wants somebody else to go out and have a good time and fill their freezer full of meat. You live in the wilds of Canada, Mike. Do you hunt, or does any of your family hunt? And I'm not trying to make some kind of statement about Canadians. Just curious. I don't know. I mean, people watch History Channel much. I didn't used to watch shows like this, but lately I've watched some because Mark knew a couple of people that had been on the show, or a show, and so I've watched those, and a couple of people have been on another one that were local from here, so I watched those. No fishing either, Mike. Wow. And that's for one show is the Alone show that's on History, where they drop a bunch of people off in the wilderness to see who can survive the longest. And I put that off and I kind of blew that off as though this is probably really hoped up. But then Mark told me that a couple of guys he knew have been on the show and they're bow builders and that kind of thing. So I only don't know. And those are open season every day, right, Diana or Mike? They are here anyway. It was interesting. Last night I was watching one I've never seen, and it was about the mountain men, and and it was interesting because they've got people kind of scattered all over the West, and there's some from actually this part of the country that are involved in that program. But there's two women, a woman, and I don't know what her age is. She was in the Army for a while, a few years, and then she has a daughter. So she's a single mom, and one of their jobs for their local village was to go out and get meat for the winter. And I found that interesting and certainly a worthy reason to be out. I mean, they're feeding native. I guess they're native or part native, indigenous peoples of Alaska, and so they go out. They got elected or were chosen to be the meat getters for this winter, and maybe they do it every winter. I don't know how long they've been, but I thought that was pretty interesting. And her daughter, who is, I don't know, mid-teenager, it was her birthday during the show, and she gave her an ulu. Now, I don't know if you know what an ulu is, but an ulu is a knife that's it's only the only place I've ever seen them was in Alaska and the Inuit and people that live along the coast of Alaska and maybe that part of Europe too, along the northern Arctic Circle area. But they're a knife that has a handle you hold, kind of like it's the blade is down here and you hold the handle sideways. And the blade is a semicircle, so it's made to skin out and get into areas where they need to clean off, like walrus and whale and whatever, as an Inuit, seals. And she hadn't made her one and given it to her for her birthday. And I thought, well, that's my kid. I gave my kids pocket knives, but not anything quite as cool as a handmade ulu. But that was their job. and they were out doing that for the village they lived in. They were trying to get 2,500 pounds of meat for the winter, and that included some 2 or 3 caribou and 1 young bull moose, I believe. Which I think if it had been me, I'd have been shooting a cow moose, but that's my preference. The meat tends to be a little better. Mark's favorite. He's talking about. Brian was talking about venison steaks. Mark's favorite animal, wild animal game meat, is actually antelope. And I used to know people that said antelope tasted like real heavy sage seasoning. That's because that's what they eat a lot out west is sage, the wild sage that grows all over that open country out there if it's not too deserty. And but I've had it, and he cans a lot of that when he's doing his canning. If you guys saw the canning show, he talked about that. And I've eaten some of his antelope, and it's really good. Carol, what about your family? You're in Michigan, and I know a lot of people in Michigan have family traditions of hunting up in the northern part of Michigan, or hunting camps, or just family gatherings where that sort of thing happens. But I mean, I'm not saying you do. I'm just wondering. Mark and I used to bow hunt a lot together. That's one of the ways I guess we bonded, was spending a lot of time together in the woods doing things like that. I miss that guy. I need to get out in Wyoming and visit him. I'm really jonesing for some one-on-one Mark and Tim time. It's been a while. We were just talking last week about buying a lodge, a teepee. I've wanted one for years, but not necessarily in recent years, because I wasn't sure I had a need. But now I've been looking at them again, and I've got this really deep itch to go out and do some teepee living and pitch it out in Mark's back 40 and just live out there about half the year. Do you live, Carol? Do you guys live in an area where you can go out and ice fish? I don't know much about. So you're on Erie and near Erie and Lake Huron, right? I believe. Oh, the big lakes, anyway. I know there's other lakes. I mean, that's Minnesota, not Michigan. Starts to say you're the land of 1,000 lakes, but that's wrong. That's the wrong state. Sorry about that. I've done a little bit of fishing too. I can't say that, and I know people that go out and fish every day, or every Saturday morning and Sunday morning when they're not working. They're out on the lake flipping lures for bass. I never did that. We used to fly fish. Brenda and her family used to fish for crappie every year. They'd spend a couple weekends a year or a week a year, and they'd go out and do nothing but that. Which I think we've talked about crappie before. Some people call them crappie, but I've always known them as crappie. They're very delicate meat. They're white meat, very, very clean, fresh tasting. I mean, they're just really good. Light is the term some people use. And in fact, that's about the only fish Brenda will eat. Does the river freeze over, Carol? I know rivers freeze over, but I didn't know if the Huron was if it did that, or if it had too much flow for winter freeze, or what. Dave hunts funnel cakes. Are there? I tell you what, I'd like to go, Dave. And I meant to ask Carol about this when she was down here visiting. I'd like to go to Dollywood and hunt up a cinnamon cake or cinnamon bread, whatever they call it up there, because I love that stuff. Nothing wrong with that either, Dave. I'm an old pastry hunter from way back. I have a 5-minute walk to go to a river that has lots of catfish in it. Really, Mike? Do you know if those are stock catfish? And if you're not really a fisherman, it may not mean anything to you, but I didn't realize you guys had. I can't say I didn't think you had any catfish, but that's pretty far north for basically a warm water fish. But they're pretty hardy. They could probably live up there, and they may very well do that. Okay, I didn't think so, Mike. I was thinking they would be stocked. Here's a little thing that says, "You betcha, Canada, catfishing in Canada, you betcha." Channel cats. Well, channel cats kind of make sense, but even that's kind of south in Ontario, so not everywhere. Interesting, Mike. We should, Mike, and we've talked about that before, and I guess kind of once again that season has passed, but unless anybody want to come up for the holiday season, Christmas is pretty cool at Dollywood. I don't know if anybody's ever been. I mean, it's kind of like a little Disney World in that respect, but it's it's our little chunk of that kind of heaven. The river freezes in part, but I don't think it. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, Carol, when I wasn't sure. Or Cedar Point. All right, I've never been to Cedar Point. Brenda has, so I would mind doing that. I'd really like to do it if I can get mobile enough to, ride some roller coasters, since there's a lot of them up there. How far of would that be a flying trip for you guys, Mike, or is Cedar Point a place where you actually? I know you can drive there, but is that realistic? I don't know how far away you are. I don't know if you fly into Knoxville and you need a ride, you just call me. I'll pick you up. That goes for anybody in there. Not that I think anybody in here is going to be flying into Knoxville. Unless it's for a football game, Carol. I don't know if Tennessee and Michigan ever play or not. I don't know if I remember them ever playing each other. If I say that, then I'm sure they have, but because that's the kind of thing that make a liar out of me. Well, it looks like they have. Looks like maybe it's only been once. 2002. Well, maybe not. And maybe it is. There's a streak of one. But Tennessee is 1-1. Michigan looks like Tennessee's 1-1. Michigan's lost 1-0. So that tells me they've only played once. And it does look like Tennessee beat them by a large margin of victory. I won't rub that in or anything. Oh man, I tell you something though that did get my grit this morning, Carol. I don't know if anybody in your house watches Game Day, But game day today is at UT at the University of Tennessee, where I went to school, and that's where the game is today for Tennessee and Florida, which is like one of our truly arch rivals. And they had Charles Woodson there as part of their panel for the game day, and I thought, wow, that guy sure has got a lot of gall. He's a former Michigan player. You remember him, Carol? I don't know how much I know you guys keep up with Big Blue football. Yes, it is much more affordable, Dave. I would totally agree with that. Mike says that'd be a lot to see on a 2-day drive if we drove out. Well, I assumed you'd fly down to here, but I wasn't sure about the Michigan or the Cedar Point part. It is, Dave, but even there is not. I mean, nothing like that's cheap anymore. I was kind of flabbergasted the last time I looked at tickets. I mean, to me, Dollywood's been there forever, and for a long, long time, it was probably a real bargain if you bought a season ticket. And they've gone up a fair bit since then. Yeah, do you remember who he beat out for the Heisman Trophy that year, Carol? His last year in college ball, first defensive, maybe the only defensive player to ever win the Heisman Trophy. And yes, some of us still hold a grudge. Yeah, he played for. Who all did he play for? He might have been a Raider too for a while. All I know is they gave him the Heisman Trophy that year instead of Peyton Manning. And I think it was mostly because they wanted to give it to somebody besides an offensive guy, especially a quarterback. He sure didn't have quite the same record. Brady, no, Brady wasn't even close when he came out of college. Nobody thought Brady was worth having out of college. Well, he fooled people. No, it was Peyton Manning, Carol. Good University of Tennessee student and quarterback and Hall of Famer from the NFL. I'm sure Woodson's probably Hall of Fame too. Yeah, it makes more sense. So my point there was I can't believe he had the gall to come to Knoxville today and be on TV for the game day. I'm almost surprised even after all these years somebody wasn't throwing rotten tomatoes at him or something. Not that hillbillies hold a grudge, mind you. We just don't forget. Okay, Packers. I knew the Raiders, and I think I remembered the Packers, but I think he started with the Raiders. I don't know. He was okay. I remember the year he was in the running, and I kind of remember his stats. And he was a good defensive back, but he was just. I mean, there were a lot of good defensive backs out there. It would have been Tennessee's first and only Heisman Trophy winner, so a lot of us kind of had it in our heart of hearts that he'd be the man, but he wasn't. Peyton, I mean. It's all right. He went on to have a few Super Bowl rings. Raiders, then Packers, then back to the Raiders. I wonder if he ever won a Super Bowl ring. Not the Raiders, I wouldn't think. Maybe the Packers one year. And I guess it would be on a little bit early out there. Is Michigan's game tonight? I looked that up earlier because I was wondering if you guys would be watching the game or going to a game. And I can't remember when it is. I think it's an evening game though. Tennessee plays at 3:30, so they're mid-afternoon, which is kind of odd. But We'll see how it goes. Florida has got a really nasty habit of coming from behind and beating Tennessee. I think we've only won one out of the last 16, 17 games. Oh, it's at noon in Maryland. Okay. Well, I'll get to watch that first, then. I probably will watch some of that one. There's a lot of good games on today. Yeah, you got pretty much the same problem, Ian. I mean, you're 2 hours behind, or 2 hours back and earlier, and not behind. And that makes it rough on stuff like that if you're interested. Everything starts real early for you. Which I guess in a lot of ways can make it, well, depends on what the games are, I guess. Most games start later than that, but some stuff would start before you get off work, probably. Oh, we should call Garrett. I should get on the phone while everybody's here and call Garrett. He was up at well, about 3 o'clock this morning. Maybe it's 2:30, because I woke up and just looked to see if he was out there, because sometimes he is, and there he was, big as Bundy. Cherie was on there from Surfer Girl from Myrtle Beach. She was getting ready to go to work. Bless her heart. Me, I just had to go to the bathroom. Oh yeah, that's true. That's true, Ian. That's usually if I'm really in the mood to watch football all day, and I usually watch football all on Saturdays. I don't watch much on Sundays, but there's usually a good West Coast game out there somewhere I can watch it late, or record for the next tomorrow. All right, guys, I got to go to voice only for a minute. Yeah. I told him this morning I was going to call and make sure you got up for the show. Sorry, guys. I had to get up and stretch for a minute. Tell you around and get me a cushion. All right, guys. Sorry about that. Sorry about any moaning and groaning you heard. I just realized I didn't turn the mic off. I do think we should call. I do. I'm so tempted to call her house, but I don't want to wake, Michelle or the kids up. If I knew I'd wake just Garrett up, I'd do it. He calls me up. We talk once or twice a week, and he usually calls me up about my dinner time, because he always, first thing he says, "Am I interrupting dinner?" He said, "I hope so." So. And you have my blessings, Mike. In fact, you can even mention it. Hey, Mark, welcome in. Good to see you. Hope you're having a wonderful day with Walter and Walter's mom. Yes, it is. I don't know how far out you are, but we've got some central timers in here, and we've got a mountain timer in here. No Pacific time that I can think of. Unless it's you, that's what I mean. I don't know if you guys are in California, Oregon, Washington, somewhere out there or not. I'm not sure where that line is either. And this is kind of a lazy day, Mark. You joined us with no particular topic. We had kind of a rough or busy week around here this week, so I really didn't have time to really do a decent topic and show coverage. So I didn't find any. Oh, Ian, that's what I should have done. I should have went out and looked for government training tapes to show, films to show. Shoot, I missed a grand opportunity. Oh, you're in Colorado. Well, Ian's in Colorado. You guys might be neighbors. Broncos have a new quarterback. I'm kind of hoping that means they're going to, have a good season this year. I might actually get back into following some pro ball. What's that? I think that was a big quiet. I'm trying to get some sleep over here. Oh, my word. Ian, that's not far at all. I don't think. I think you guys are close together. Or fairly close together anyway. Yeah, I do too, Mark. I used to be a big Denver fan, and I guess I still would be if I was keeping up. I really didn't quit being a fan when Peyton retired, but I just haven't been in the foot. I tend to follow some teams and certain players. I guess I've always done that. Like I followed Don Shula as a coach from the from Baltimore Colts when they were there to the Miami Dolphins, and was a big Dolphins fan for years because of him. And of course, then they were really good in the 70s. But I always was a fan of Denver too when I couldn't watch the Dolphins. That was a team that sometimes an AFL team that we got to see once in a while. And I just haven't kept up with pro football lately. I don't know. I just haven't. Pro sports just don't do for me what I enjoy college a lot better. And maybe there's not that much difference in the two, honestly, but I even like to watch a little bit of Canadian football when I remember to look it up and find it. Okay, tell me which one is CSU the Buffaloes or the? There's two teams and two major football teams, right, in Colorado State and just Colorado. The Rams. And one of those teams used to be really good. I can remember when they were a national ranked team for several years at one time. So now you'll have to correct me and tell me which one of the two that was, but well, actually, you've got Colorado, you got CSU, Colorado, and you've actually got Air Force too. Just threw that in there, Ian. Thanks for reminding me, though. You guys out there that watch college game football, you get the Dr. Pepper commercials where they're Fanville and all that. This year's they're talking about all that conference changing and players jumping around through the portal, and which has been kind of confusing for me too, to be honest. But there's been a lot of shuffling out there. Yeah, you know what, Ian? It's kind of interesting. Air Force, Navy, and Army have all had pretty decent teams the last few years, and I can remember when they weren't worth a darn. And but then again, way back when, Army was always tough, and of course, I still like to watch the Army Navy game, even if it's not always that good of a game. Lately, it's not been bad though. Yes, they are, Ian. Some of those commercials are really funny, and the newest one is one of those. Although I have to admit, I really like the one about when they stole the goalpost, and the guy rats out his neighbor and says, he's got a really strange looking antenna over there in his yard. Of course, he's got one in his yard too, but he says it's a Swedish swing set. Pretty funny stuff. So how many people out here have seen have seen the Northern Lights? That's another topic that was on my list. So that's something I want to go see. Again, watching History Channel and lately, and watching the Alone and those TV shows where they're much further north. They show the Northern Lights occasionally, and I think they're gorgeous. I just want to go see them. How about you guys, Mike? Are you far enough north to see the Northern Lights regularly, or? I know they get down into I know you can get places in the States where you can see them sometimes, but not as often as you can further up. Oh, that's cool. Mark. Ian said saw them when he visited BC in the summer. Could see them faintly in northern Idaho. Oh, that'd be cool too, Carol. I just think it'd be fascinating. I mean, I know they're not always the same, but a lot of the ones I have seen and do see are just quite amazing. I'll never forget a story a few years back where thought I had a message from Brenda, but I don't. There's a place. I guess different cultures, look at the lights differently, and there's some places think they're a great time for fertility, if you will. And there's the show Northern Exposure kind of made fun of this one time, but there are places in Alaska, I believe, or Upper Canada, where they rent out cabins and hotel rooms that face the north for Northern Lights. And certain times of the year, they're just booked up with young couples hoping to get pregnant during the Northern Lights. I guess that's supposed to be pretty special. Hey, if that works for you, I'd go for it. Really, Mike? That's interesting. Are you serious, or are you pulling my leg? See, I have to check on you. You could have been on a big donut jag or something. I've probably talked about this before, but when Mark and I are one of the times I've been out to Wyoming, and Mark and I camped out on top of in the Sierra Madres of Wyoming. I didn't realize there were Sierra Madres in more than one place, but there are. We didn't see northern lights, but we were far, far away from any light pollution. And I stepped out of the tent and looked up one night, and I could not believe the stars. I mean, I just hadn't been anywhere lately that didn't have where I could see that many stars, where the sky wasn't so lit up around me that it blocked out the star field. But wow, it's just amazing. Churchill, Manitoba has northern lights and polar bears. Yeah, I knew about the polar bears. Oh wow, that's cool, Diane. I didn't realize they. I mean, I knew that. I didn't realize they were that common. I thought it was more of a winter time phenomena. But I mean, there's no reason why they couldn't be year round. That's not what the weather, the cold temperature is not what causes them. It's the poles. So he's serious. I would have taken a picture, but we're not allowed to do that on property with cell phones. Okay, Mike, you're gonna have to explain that to me, Ricky, because I don't know. What do you mean by that? Oh wow, and I envy you guys. I'd really like to see that. That's I kind of remember those days too, okay, but they're long gone in my part of the country. It's just too bright. And we're so used to light pollution that we forget what's scattered. That's true, Carol. We really are. A lot of kids, have never been out in a wild place or a place where they don't have that, and they don't realize just what's up there that you can see with the naked eye. It is quite amazing. And that was, I was just blown away. I just stood out there and just kind of circled around in the dark. And it was just, I was just spellbound. It had been so long since I'd seen a sky like that. That was just, wow. It was something. There was a place that Mark spent some time when he was in college that I visited him at, called Land Between the Lakes down here, and it's got less light pollution than just about any other place around here at that time that I knew. Well, I lived in Nashville then, which was pretty much lit up all the time, and excuse me, and we saw a lot of stars and got to look through the telescope there, and where they had a 10-inch observatory scope, and that was quite interesting, fascinating too. But nothing like that Wyoming sky. Wow, it was really lit up. But we didn't see the northern lights, so that would have really made our day. Mike says, "Oh, at work. You were on property at work. I got you." Well, I'm not going to ask you what you do for a living then, Mike. You might have to come down here and kill us. Oh, Carol. You think that's really necessary? What if we made everybody promise they wouldn't go home and tell their parents? Carol, we're out of city limits, and there isn't a lot of lights now, but the church that has lights on the parking lot. Yeah, I don't think people realize just how much we've changed, brightened up the sky. One of the really eye-opening things for me was when I first saw a satellite photo of the Earth lit up at night. I mean, you guys, I don't know if you guys have seen that, but if you haven't, you should look for it because the areas that are lit up are just mind-boggling. It makes you wonder just how much energy we spend every year just keeping our lights on, and I have to believe it's way more than we think. And I'm not telling people to turn all their lights off. I know people don't want to do that, and there's a lot of places that need lights on for security. But I often wonder too how many people. The thing to do down here for some people, for some reason, if you build a McMansion or something, you want everybody to see it apparently, so you put lights around it so at night it's all lit up. And why? I mean, to me, that is just a huge waste of energy. Well, Mike, I wasn't kidding. I don't want you to have to come down here and kill. I mean, it's what if you killed everybody in my chat room? I wouldn't have anybody show up to hear me ramble, as you say, out talk everybody. What did Ian say about Carol? And no biggie down here though, Ian, about top. Well, Mike's in Canada anyway. They may be loose like we are down here with top secret stuff. We just take it home with us and share it with our friends. I do, Carol. I'm good for that. I forget about parent slips and things. Those kind of things just slip my feeble mind. Yeah, we'll start getting pegged. People will start seeing things about secret messages, photos, and top secret areas of Canada, and naked eye talk and things like that. Pretty soon, I'll have everybody I'll be getting monitored by the FBI and the CIA. Anybody? You think that's funny, Diana? I'm not sure what part. I've said too many things. I'm in trouble with everybody's parents. I'm in trouble with the government. I mean, I probably would be in trouble with our former government if I was still if I wasn't real careful. Super far afield, but we are headed to the Rockies game tomorrow. Oh, that'll be cool. That's not. If you're saying that's too far afield for this conversation, Mark, you haven't been here enough. That's the kind of squirrel we chase around here pretty regular. I had an ex-roommate who went to work for Raytheon. Next thing I know, I have a naval investor. Oh, I've been through that too. Ian, I have had several of my friends go to work for places like, and a couple of cousins. I have a cousin I don't know if she still works. She worked for Raytheon too. Man, you talk about a war hawk. Man, Raytheon loves to sell those missiles. Anyway, I was really surprised by how much Anyway, so I think I got calls about her. I had a couple of friends in the Air Force that I got calls from Clarence. I have another friend that worked for Boeing that was involved in some nuclear enrichment programs I used to run here in town or Oak Ridge. I've had several of those calls, and you're absolutely correct, Ian. They get serious about it. They're not joking. They, they don't necessarily. Okay, what about CSIS? Canadian, what is that? Mike, help me out here. Which former governor are you referring to, Tim? Actually, don't answer this. Oh, not, well, I will answer it. Well, maybe I shouldn't answer it, but I will. I mean, let's just say former president and let it go with that. Excited, Mark's excited about the baseball game. Yes, they are. Well, you know what, Mark? People like I knew people that used to say baseball was boring. Then they didn't want to sit through a game. They didn't like a game. They should go to a game. The game of baseball doesn't change, but being there makes so much difference in a baseball game. For one thing, you can get nowhere else can you get an overpriced hot dog that's any better than a ballpark. You can get ice cream in a baseball helmet. I mean, where can you do that with your favorite team on it, maybe? And I mean, it's just cool. A go to a game is just really, really unique. Let's see what else he said. I had a friend apply to work for Pepsi, and they questioned him because of my association with Coca-Cola. My association is not publicly known, so that was super creepy. Oh, they know everything, Mark. But you know what? I firmly believe that, because while we make fun of things like that, like the rivalry between Pepsi and Coke, it is real for them. I worked for Coca-Cola for a while myself. At the bottom of the rung, I was a delivery person for 6 months. And while I was in between getting my aircraft license and getting my first aircraft job, and those people were way too serious for me. For one thing, I prefer Pepsi, and I was not allowed to drink a Pepsi. If I got caught drinking a Pepsi, they would immediately fire me. How many in Johnson City now? I'm not sure. I'm sure that's not what you meant to say, but I bet that means you're in Johnson City now. But I absolutely believe they would have called. Now, how they knew, I don't know, but that just shows you how much they do know. I had to be non. Yeah, it is. I understand, Ian, but they take it way too personally. Creepy. Yeah, see, a watered down. What else? And a watered down beer. And a watered down beer in the sun. That's exactly right, Ian. Don't answer that. Well, I already did. Mike says he can't get into baseball. That's okay, Mike. I bet if we went together, I bet we'd still have fun. You know what, Mike? I don't know, but here's the thing. Baseball food has changed, and I bet you can go get some really good donuts at a baseball stadium now. Because, baseball hot dogs or weenies or whatever you want to call them, that's just touching the lower rungs of the ladder now for baseball gourmands. Some of these stadiums have really good food, or really expensive probably, but excellent food for things like that. Yes, I'm in Johnson City now. Okay, everybody knows where Brenda is. Anyway, back to Coke for a minute. Coke and Pepsi. There's a story. I don't know if I told this here already or not, but I'm going to tell it again. But I know I did tell this to somebody. Maybe it was in here a couple of weeks ago. When I went to a little store here on a motorcycle trip one time nearby, and I went in to get a Pepsi or something, a Pepsi product of some sort, and I was told they did not have such things in that store. And I said, "What do you mean you don't have such things in the store?" And the lady behind the counter said, "The guy that owns this store won't sell Pepsis." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "That's because during World War II, no joke, during World War II, he couldn't get Pepsis. So he told them to go to hell, and he just has sold Cokes ever since." There's a reason for that. And that's because Coke went out as the war was starting. They kind of saw it coming. And they went out and bought all the sugar they could find. And they basically held all the reserves of sugar in this country. And Pepsi couldn't get any. So they were really having trouble keeping output going. Okay, Carol. All right, folks. I'll be out of chat while I drive. Still listen. Okay, Carol. Be safe. Tell the yonker we said hi. Or yonkers, whichever it is. But yeah, so the Pepsi Coke rivalry goes deep around here. And it's Pepsi, I guess, officially started in North Carolina, and of course Coke fights between Chattanooga and Atlanta, but I guess Atlanta is ahead on that one right now. So that's where the museum and everything is. But that rivalry is far more serious than I think it deserves to be honest. But it's a lot of money. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Speaking of that, I just saw this morning on the news that Pepsi's not going to be sponsoring the Super Bowl game this year because Apple, I think they said iPhone is going to be doing it. Well, Ian said that the donuts aren't great at Coors Field, Mike, but the funnel cakes are pretty good. So earlier, Dave was in here talking about hunting funnel cakes. I think it was Dave. So, Dave, if you get out towards Coors Field in Denver, you might want to run by there and, chase down a funnel cake. Okay. Oh, my goodness. That's interesting. I don't doubt that either. I used to work on Walmart airplanes. And Walmart was, when the old man was still alive, what was his first name? Oh, crap. And he drove around in an old beat up pickup truck, and he rode around in fairly inexpensive aircraft, considering what most companies the size of Walmart did. And he did it because they were cheap. I mean, they were much cheaper to fly those planes than they were to have jets. And they traveled a lot, doing stuff in the store, so they did it that way. And that was because he was kind of tight with the purse strings and probably knew what he was doing, which was taking me to a point about Walmart and Kmart. But I know how they were competitive wise, so I'm not surprised by that in the least. You're at the hospital. Okay, well, let me know if you're headed home. Let me know if they're letting her out yet, or if she's ready to go or not. I didn't get to go with Brenda today because Brenda's mom wanted Brenda all to herself when she took her home from the hospital. That's code for I don't really care if Tim comes or not. Which probably works out for both of us, but sorry guys, fixing my footrest again. It bounced out of the way. One of the problems with having a stupid foot, and by stupid I mean one I can't feel half the time, it tends to kick things and I don't even realize it's kicked. Walton, yeah, well, what was his first name? Do you remember, Ian? Hey, Tina, welcome in. You just got here in time to sign your parents' permission slip. Carol was handing them out right before, she had to run and pick up swimmers. So, but we had to pass out some late parent permission slips. I slipped up and forgot to do that. And then I used the term with my naked eye, and she thought we should get everybody to sign up. I knew if you'd have been here, you'd have caught that right away. Walton was famous for driving around Bentonville with that pickup. Now his heirs buy sports teams like I buy candy bars. Yes, they do, Ian. His heirs are nothing like he was. Old man Walton was probably a decent sort, and although he was sure he was a tightwad and probably didn't treat his employees all that great, but would kind of be my guess. But he drove around in an old pickup, and he didn't live in a big, huge mansion. I mean, I'm sure he lived in a pretty nice house, but All I said was naked eye, but Carol seemed to think we probably ought to make sure everybody's covered on that, Tina. Oh, that's right, Sam Walton. Thank you, Ian. I knew somebody would remember. Man, I spent some cold days in Somerville, West Virginia, repairing one of his airplanes, or Walmart's airplanes. That they had skidded off the runway in ice and snow one day and did a lot of damage to the belly. Nobody got hurt, but we had to spend a lot of time up there repairing it so they could fly it back to Nashville to get completely repaired. They actually did a lot of damage to that thing. That's correct, Tina. You don't need to count squirrels today because today's all about squirrels. My excuse was this week's been kind of upside down, so I wasn't sure if we'd be here or be out of town or what might be going on, so I just didn't have any plans. And I actually thought I might have a teacher in here that was going to talk about her daycare or her outdoor school, but she couldn't do it this weekend, so I'm hoping for next weekend or the following weekend. Plus, Mark's not able to be here today. He's out working with his vets, veterans, not veterinary, horse doctor, and he really wanted to be here when she was on anyway, so this will probably work out for that. Well, there's things in here to detract me, Tina. I want you to know that right off. Ian and Mike are both in here doing a good job of that. Hang on just a minute, guys. I'm about to choke. Sorry. Eat that. It makes my eyes water. And my nose runs sometimes. Tina, you missed it earlier, though. I was explaining to people that when the lady comes to talk about her school or her class, she's she's a real talker and is going to out talk me, which some of these folks in here seem to find that humorous. Our Canadian friends even thought that wasn't possible, but I'm telling you, you're going to be surprised. The problem with her is, or one main difference is she talks a lot more and faster, but hers makes sense. And it means something. Mine's just, gibberish by comparison. Yes, they do. Thank goodness. Well, who said that? Oh, Ian. Well, I didn't. Like I said, I didn't really have anything particular to talk about today, and I didn't really have time to do a new thumbnail, and everything got canceled this week. My Thursday night show got canceled, and I have a guy that's coming to speak that week, or for that. Hopefully, he'll be on this week, and I think you'll find that very interesting too. He's a interesting guy, and well, Tina, you know what? I didn't think about that, but you're right. I may be, and Ian too. We may be completely offline. I tried to tell Ian that I might talk a lot, but I'm a slow talker compared to some. Oh, I'll tell you what, guys, my backside is really starting to ache. That point is by noon, I'm going to be probably ready to get off here. I don't want to leave because Tina just got here. Let's see. We talked about the Northern Lights a little bit. I wanted to ask about that. Do you ever see those, Tina, down your way? Teddy made an appearance earlier. We've talked about a little bit about baseball. Mark is here, Walter's dad, and he's going to talk about. Well, thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. I try to be. They're going to go to a baseball game tomorrow, I believe he said, the Colorado Rockies. Who are they playing, Mark? And that'll be fun. Ian says, I work with a guy. That hadn't popped up over here yet. Here you go. Ian says, worked with a guy moved here from LA. And before that, New Jersey. Talk about fast talkers. I bet, Ian. I went to school with a few of those folks. They from New Jersey, I mean. Now, I have talked to, I'll have to admit, I've talked to John Surfbum, and he doesn't seem to be that typical, fast talking New York, New Jersey area type Delaware, yeah, kind of. He doesn't seem to go on like he's not that fast. He talks a little bit more like somebody from down this way, at least speed wise. It doesn't matter anyway. Mark, you're probably you're rooting for the Rockies. So what? Who cares? Excuse me, guys. I haven't slept good either the last couple of nights. Last night wasn't bad. Night before last was rough. A lot of leg cramps. That's the one thing my dumb leg does well is, even though I can't feel some things, I feel pain pretty well. And it's been really cramping up. That could be, Ian. You're right. That's a good point. Wyoming might have slowed him down a wee bit. Good point. Oh, man. No, I am getting sleepy. I got up real early this morning because I wasn't sure when Brenda needed to hit the road. So, let's see. I know I had something else on my list. Well, I had death on there. That's kind of a morbid subject, though. And that's a bit dark. Otherwise, I'd rather keep it kind of sunny. I can't remember why I thought about that, really. Well, I know why. I mean, we talked about it. Brenda was real concerned a couple of nights ago, and when we first found out her mom was in the emergency room and they weren't sure what was going on. Well, it is. That's very true, Tina. And she was worried she wouldn't get up there. Hey, Dave. Welcome in, Space Mountain Dave. I hope you're having a good day in Florida, and I hope you're batting down for the hurricane. Although you got a few more days on that one. Maybe somebody that lives in Florida can find an answer, give me an answer to this one. And I've thought about this before, but I heard somebody say it on a comedy hour or something not long ago. Why is it that every time a hurricane hits Florida, everybody runs to Home Depot and Lowe's and those kind of places to buy new plywood? Why don't they keep the plywood they took off their house last time to cover the windows this time? Or does that just seem that way? Because it seems like every time there's a big hurricane, everybody runs out to the lumber store and starts buying up plywood, to cover up windows and stuff in their house. And then there's a big shortage on it, or you can't buy it, or the price goes up everywhere else because it's all. I understand why it happens after the hurricane passes, but it seems like it starts even before the hurricanes get there. And I always kind of wondered why they don't keep it piled up behind. I realize they probably don't want the trash, but why not keep it somewhere so you don't have to go out and get it every year and reuse it? Either that or somebody in here needs to come up with a collapsible plywood that they can cover windows and doors and houses in hurricane zones that can be folded up and put away neatly and we'll all get rich on it. I'll be glad to help somebody work on that project. Maybe I shouldn't have even mentioned that in here. Maybe I should have kept that one to myself. Mike says, I thought the same thing. Why don't they keep it on? Yeah, I mean, you see it every time there's a big hurricane coming. They have to go out and buy all new supplies. Now, I get that you might have to refresh your batteries and you might need water. But why not have it? Why don't you already have your generator? And why don't you already have your plywood ready? And maybe even a blue tarp or two on hand just to put over the roof. You think that's it, Kay? I mean, you think? And Dave says, he says they should have. Well, that's what you'd think. And Kay might be more onto it than I realize. I mean, maybe that just shows you how many people move to Florida every year or in those areas, along the coast where that happens. Storm shutters, novel concept. Yeah. Did Ian say that? Well, yeah, Ian. I mean, I can remember that people used to talk about, battening down the shutters, and that is right. I mean, that's what they originally were for. But that's not cool decoratively anymore, or they're just on the house as decorations. They don't actually function. Yeah, Mike, that's a very good point. You would think so. I mean, there's got to be ways that could be done I'm not going to say economical, although if you buy plywood very many times, it would be economical. That you could do a roll down, maybe even like a roll down metal door on the out, like they do for stores and malls. When they close up, they they roll down a metal door. I mean, you could probably make like a chainmail door curtain that you could pull down over your windows that when they were rolled up would not be offensive to look at. And they would protect your windows and everything. Yeah, that's right. That's what I was just saying, Kay. I think you're right. I think storm shutters have just turned into decorative things and they don't really work anymore. Let me see what else. Storm shutters. No, plywood gets wet and virtually falls apart. I guess it does, Tina, but I guess after a hurricane, maybe that is it. Maybe it just takes too much of a beating. But I've always wondered why. Storm shutters cost a lot of money, so you put up plywood until they can afford storm shutters. Except when they keep buying plywood every year, they never get they can never afford the storm shutters. Well, there you go, Dave. I wasn't going to throw that one out there, but you know what they say in the South. How's that go? You know how hurricanes and divorces are alike in the South. You can about guarantee somebody's going to lose a trailer. Going to the hospital like to have never found parking. Oh, wow. Bye-bye. You'd think the government have a grant that you could apply for to get storm shutters, shredders, and a generator and a water softener. I don't know about the water softener, but I'll have to look that up. I think that being able to pull down a chainmail curtain would be an excellent idea. And you could roll it up and something to think about and ponder. If you made them out of steel, here's another thought. If you made it out of steel, you could roll it down over your windows and have hook at the bottom that it fastened to. And then along the edge of your windows in a decorative trim, you could put magnets, and then the magnets would help hold the steel to the window frame and it wouldn't get blown around as much in the storm. And you'd have shutters for ever and ever. I may have to work on that. It sounds like a good idea to me, which probably means it wouldn't work, but sure is a thought. Yeah, the wind could go through it, Tina, to some extent, but debris and stuff wouldn't be able to go through the windows and break them out. Plus, I think I don't know that chainmail would be the answer, but I'm just saying chainmail as a means to roll things up. But there'd be other ways you could do it with metal that it would flex and be. I'm trying to figure out a way to make it roll up like a curtain or a shade over your window, but on the outside so that it wouldn't look. You could put an awning or not an awning, but what they call them. Oh, well, it's kind of like an awning. It would come out, in front of the window just a little bit, and the cover would actually be tucked up in there, and you could just roll it down and cover your windows when you needed to. Yeah, I'd have to think about the wind more too, Tina. That is an issue because the wind's blowing so hard. But I think one of the problems is that it breaks out the windows and stuff. So if you could break that push, or figure out a way to make it so that it couldn't push as much. Most of those windows are made. They are made, I believe, Dave or somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're supposed to take a certain amount of miles per hour in the wind. Well, no, that's not. That's a thought too, Kay. I've heard that too. I've heard that both ways, and I think you're probably right. Although I think most people probably don't think they don't want that tap because it'll, blow water into their house. It's probably going to flood anyway. But, all you'd have to do was crack the window and let the air blow on through. You're right, in the front and the back, and then that would relieve pressure, and the wind would blow through. Interesting. Oh, somebody's beat me to it, Tina. Now you've broken my heart. And obviously, with tornadoes, you don't really have time for that. You'd have to have something that, when the alarms went off, it like deployed around your house real quick or your trailer. Hey, Carol's back. Or are you still traveling? I do want to talk about death for a moment. Not death per se, but different states have different regulations about this, and I'm curious about something. If you know, different states have different rules and regulations about where you can bury someone, or how you can bury someone, or what kind of container the body has to be in, or if it's cremated, does it have to be cremated inside? You pay extra for that cardboard box or whatever. And here for a long time, and this may still be the case. That's why I'm asking. In Tennessee, funeral homes kind of rule the roost in that regard. And that may sound silly, but what I mean by that is they control all that. They control the cost, the prices, and they work together. And you have to buy your coffins through them a lot of times. And for a little while in Tennessee, you could actually go to a store here in town separate and buy a coffin at a much cheaper price than you could buy it from the funeral home on the day of need, and save a lot of money, and have it delivered when you passed away or whatever, and then you could bypass some of the cost, but you still had to buy all that. And then in Tennessee, I'm pretty sure, I don't know, but maybe most states, I guess. But in Tennessee, you also have to be put in a concrete vault, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. But I kind of want my body to rot and go to the worms. That's just my personal feeling. But Yeah, they did, Tina. You're absolutely correct. You can buy them at Walmart in South Carolina, Kay, because that's what I'm getting at. Some states allow it, some states don't allow that. And like around here, I don't think you can do that anymore. Somebody pushed that law because around here you had to go through the mortuary system, if you will, to buy your funeral supplies, for lack of a better word. And then for a little while, you started seeing coffin stores and places you could buy that, and probably Walmart, Sam's Club, something like that was doing it, but you don't see them anymore. And I think that's because they outlawed it again, or passed some kind of rules about them. But I don't know if you can still do that here, but I know they certainly ran the coffin stores out of town. You don't see that anymore at all. And when it first happened, they sort of popped up in several areas, and you could do it. You could go save money on a coffin, which I think somebody told me they were about half price. Well, there's a place here, and there is one way around some of that here. There is an environmental, for lack of a better word, I'm going to call it that, Earth First kind of not a commune. I hate to call it a commune. It has a lot of stigma. But there is a place here, a rural area, where they've bought up a fair bit of land and people live there, and they've got some really interesting construction methods. I mean, everything they do there is potentially off the grid, and I mean, some people might say it's where all the old hippies went here in Tennessee. It's not quite like that, but people do retire up there because it's very quiet. It is mostly off the grid. I've worked with those folks some in different cleanup projects. I find them to be very good people. They're not weird, they're not strange. They're just like me and you. They just choose to get out of town. But anyway, they offer a funeral and burial service up there, and you can go be buried there for not much money, and you don't have to be buried in a casket, and you don't have to be buried in a concrete vault. And it must have something to do with where it's located, the county, or the fact that it's on private land and somehow they've gotten permission. But you can't. I know people who have signed up for that and will actually be buried there. Brenda and I both have talked about it at one time. What did Diana say? Wonder if they try before you buy, make sure it's comfortable. Diana, if I got put in a box, you bet your booty I'd be up there checking it out, because if I'm going to lay in that thing for eternity, I want it to be comfy. I mean, pretty soon you're going to be down bone on wood if you don't, have a nice pad beneath your your hip bones there. Good thinking, though, Diana. Why am I not surprised you can buy a coffin at Walmart? I'm sure you could buy them here if it was allowed. That's why I'm pretty sure Tennessee changed that, which takes me back to this place up here called Rarity, or not Rarity Ridge. That'll come to me in a minute. But you can go there and do that. And I've really been curious about a couple things about that. I wonder if they would be allowed to do like what I'm going to call an aerial burial, which was some Native American traditions, to put them in a scaffold. Your Eastern Native American tribes sometimes put them in trees, put bodies up in trees, and they might have left them with their favorite bow or their favorite knife or whatever, but that was also a way to let the body return back to nature. I mean, without being too gross, the crows and buzzards and whatnot got to pick out your eyes and eat the flesh and all. I mean, you got to go back, return back to nature I'm not trying to weird people out here. I'm just being honest. And I've told Brenda for years I wanted her to put me up in a tree and just let the birds have me. But I don't know if you can do that here. That's why, which I doubt they can even do it up there because that's different. But it wouldn't bother me if they did it. I'd kind of like that. I got to figure out who's going to scatter my ashes. I want ashes scattered here and out west somewhere. I'm gonna try. Maybe I can get Mark to do it. I know in Wyoming, I'm pretty sure Mark told me out there, and people used to do this here, so I'm not sure what the rules are now. It used to be pretty common if you had a piece of property or a farm, somewhere on that property was your family cemetery. I read that Luke. Wait a minute, let me get this up on the screen. I read that Luke Perry was buried in some type of suit that was to promote mushroom growth, and he was just buried in the ground without a coffin. Another, after nature took its course, he was to be dug up. I wonder why he'd be dug up. Just to see how it did, or interesting. Oh, then his bones were to be buried in the normal way. Not sure if it is true. Could be. Stranger things have been done, that's for sure. I was just the dog in. All they could think of was silly posturepedic off. How about a waterbed? You think they would do waterbed coffins? Probably not. I used to love our waterbed. Here there are places where they will mix your ashes with soil and you can bury it at the base of a sapling so you help the tree grow. Well, I think that's good too. And here you can pretty much scatter ashes anywhere here. As far as we had, even when I worked, you could do that on federal property. We had people call us all the time about spreading ashes. We didn't want people having big ceremonies and drawing big crowds and that sort of thing. But they could spread them. They could spread them in the lake. They could, spread them on the hillside. That's the kind of thing I'd probably do. I can almost appreciate having mine dumped in the head of the Clinch or the Powell rivers and letting them float all the way down to the ocean from there. So they could probably go through the dam. They wouldn't really, but the thought would be that my ashes could flow all the way to the sea, but I'm quite sure they wouldn't get there. What did Tina say about letting? Oh, letting the dogs out. Okay. Ian, your job. Who said? Kay, your job is to research that and see if that's really true about him. Luke Perry. He was kind of an interesting guy. So if anybody was going to do it, it'd probably be him. I've seen places that take ashes and they form them into gems for jewelry. Oh, that'd be interesting. So I might be able to be crushed into I don't think I'm good. I don't think I'd ever make a diamond, but maybe they could crush me into a pea gravel or something, and maybe my daughters could have a pea gravel bracelet of their dad. That'd be interesting. I wonder if they could grind you up in dog food. Nah, never mind. I won't go there. Okay, Ian is saying that maybe that's true. Oh, he's talking about the jewelry, I guess. Can't decide if it's nice or creepy. Well, I think that, again, probably depends on where you're from. I think things like that probably happen all the time in New Orleans. They kind of like creepy. Other parts of the country might not. But I don't know. I don't think it's that creepy. Not really. I guess it could be, but if they were able to pulverize my remains and crush it into a artificial diamond, and one of my kids could wear it around their neck, I think that'd be kind of cool. Oh, that's a thought too, Tina. Now, I think I have heard of that. I have heard of people putting ashes in like an amulet or a small bottle that they can wear around their neck, like you're talking about, or form it in polycarbonate and let it set. That's an interesting thought. Yeah, we were talking. A friend of mine and I were talking about that recently, and Mark and I have talked about it before because both of us have similar kind of desires in that regard. Oh yeah, we did. We talked about death pictures the other day. Tina, that's interesting because I've gone to funerals. Well, hear me out. I've gone to funerals and I've often wondered if it would be correct or proper or whatever to go into the funeral home or the church and take some pictures of the service for people like that to remember their loved ones by if they so desired. But I've also thought, wow, that's really crude, and I don't know if I've ever seen anybody do it. But you're absolutely correct. They used to do that all the time. We talked last week about how on the Oregon Trail, there was some people, depending on where you died at on the trail, but they were actually had pictures taken of, their a dead woman and her child sitting together in a pretty much lifelike pose and position, and it was their death portrait. And they did stuff like that more than we realize. And I've often wondered how common that was, and when we stopped doing it, or did that something that just happened because photography was so new back then, and then people kind of looked at it as, ew, why are we doing that? So I'd be curious to know the history on that. I guess maybe that's another research project I need to look into. Now we take a lot of pictures while they're alive, so we don't really need that. That's a good point too, Tina. Back then, people didn't have a lot of pictures of people, and that might have been the kind of occasion where they'd spend the money. Who knows? Maybe the undertakers even did that, provided that service. Luke Perry was buried. I'll put that up for everybody to read. Hey, Michael and Bella's Travel Channel, welcome to Tim's House of Squirrels. And if you don't know what that means, Tina can explain it in a minute. Buried in a mushroom soup, part of the green burial in Tennessee. I would like to know where that was. Yes, do send me that, please, Kay, because that's the kind of thing they might very well do up here at Narrow Ridge, and that's the name of the place I couldn't remember a minute ago. It's called Narrow Ridge Nature Center, Nature something. There's a lot of people there with solar panels and I think wind turbines and small ones, and houses that are super insulated by natural means. I think somebody up there's even got a house built out of old tires filled with mud or concrete. Michael and Bella, welcome in and tell me, you're new to my channel, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm often wrong. Usually sets. Oh, okay. She's going to explain it. Thank you. See, I knew you'd do a better job, Tina, than I could ever. And far fewer words than I would have done. I would have chased a couple of squirrels just telling about it. And in this case, Michael or Bella or Ann Bella, squirrels are just, stray topics that pop up, and then we run off, down that rabbit trail or whatever you call it where you happen to live. Oh, my new cup. This is the one I got last week and unboxed. I really like this cup. It fits my warmer. It stays nice and warm all the way up. Really good cup. Nice and heavy. Good mug. My favorite mug now. Without a doubt. And I will probably cry my eyes out when I break it, which I'm prone to do. I cracked the handle off one of my forest and fires. But I glued it back on, and so far the glue's held. I actually think that was just kind of a lousy made cup, what I think. Oh, Bella loves squirrels. That's cool. Thank you, Ian. I do too. I shouldn't even ask, but I'm going to ask. What the heck? Always practical, Tina. Thank you. Well, I will ask a question. We have Michael and Bella's Travel Channel. Can I assume? without making an ass out of myself, that Michael and Bella are both humans, perhaps partners or man and wife or sister and brother, or could it be Michael and Bella his traveling dog? I've known people that did that too, because that might be a reason why Bella loves squirrels, or maybe Bella's his daughter. Well, Michael, you don't have to get super particular about it, but we've got folks in here from Canada, from Colorado, New York, Tennessee. We had somebody from Michigan, or she is around Michigan, Carol Carkey, and New Jersey, and Florida, and where else? I said Colorado, didn't I? Yeah, and I guess that's it. I guess that's all. Yeah, okay. Bella is the dog. That's what I thought it might be. I'll have to check that out. See what kind of travel channel you guys have. Do you by any chance have Instagram, Michael? Oh, he's on the Oregon coast. Cool. My wife has family out that way somewhere. I don't know. Think they run the. Well, actually, they may have Coos Bay. Well, which would make sense if that was on the coast. And I was thinking there was some in a town too, but it still might be at Coos Bay. What kind of dog is Bella? If Bella chases squirrels, she's probably my kind of dog. I know this is probably not the case here, but I've always wanted a good squirrel dog. Back in Tennessee, people have squirrel dogs. Kentucky and Tennessee, they can help you get the squirrels into a tree. And South Carolina, that's right, Kay. I'm sorry, I forgot. Oh, and Georgia. Dave was in here. We had a Georgian in here too. Yeah, Oregon coast is another one of those places I'd really like to go visit. That whole northwest area I'd like to go visit, to be honest. I don't care if it does rain a lot. Not a complete squirrel, but I follow some travelers on YouTube and Instagram that are mostly motorcycle adventure people that travel all over the world. I've also picked up following a couple of others, and one of them is a lady who's I think she's from Germany originally, but she's been traveling around parts of the world. I don't know where all she's been exactly. And a Range Rover Defender or something. It's a big off road. It's kind of like you see an African safari vehicle kind of thing, bigger than a Jeep, and not your usual luxury Range Rover by any means. This is the real thing, and she's converted it to be a small motorhome, and she just left Oregon and crossed the Canadian border and is headed towards Alaska. And right before she crossed the Canadian line, one of her wheels started to fall off. She had to turn around and go back and get a new set of wheels, which was not a good deal. You'll send me your hound. He'll get you some squirrels. Now, is this a basset hound, Diana? Okay. For those of you who follow today's blow by blow, Brenda, I'll see if you guys can see this. I got a message from Brenda that says she is in the room with her mom, and check out the face she made. Oh, I bet you're not going to be able to see that. Nope. Oh, there we go. There we go. Oh, get the light right, Tim. Well, I had it once. And I'm not going to get it again. Just give it up, Tim. Okay. Anyway, she made a really funny face. Let me send her a message real quick, guys. I told her everybody said hi. Oh, put it down lower. Would that have done it? Too bad I can't make it bigger. There. Maybe you can see that, but it's a googly eyes with her tongue sticking out sideways. A basset hound, huh? Does she run squirrels or tree squirrels? I need to know these things. Oh, northern Colorado. I think I did say Colorado. I missed South Carolina though, I'm afraid. And Georgia until she mentioned South Carolina. Basset hounds are kind of neat in their own way. I kind of like basset hounds. Now, if I just wanted a hound, though, I could contact Tina and maybe rent one of hers temporarily. On a bad day, she might cut me a deal 3 for 1 as long as I took them out and fed them and, took them out for their walks every little bit. You can get for free. See, I told you. I don't know if you picked up on this or not last week. Oops, my coffee warmer went off. Mark had hounds at his house last week who were about to get on his last nerve, as we say here in East Tennessee. He was just about over having all of his sons and daughter-in-law's livestock and their baby. Not that he doesn't love them dearly and doesn't mind taking care of their dogs once in a while, or even their horses. I've got 1 mule and 5 horses, I believe, grazing on his hay. I got another message here. Hang on. Oh, okay. Well, Brenda just sent me a note back. Everybody will be glad to know that she said her mom, I asked her how her mom was, and that everyone said hi. And her reply to that was, she's herself. And out of respect for her, I will let that go at that. I can't remember if I've seen pictures or not, Tina, but it seems to me like you've got at least one blue tick hound, don't you? But hounds are hounds pretty much. Some of the best hounds I've ever seen were, by many standards, mutts in the hound world. Not pure blue tick, not pure red bone or whatever. Tennessee and Western North Carolina, I believe, I don't remember which one actually takes credit for it, but created what's now known as the plot hound, which was PLOT, which is the bear and hog kind of dog that was bred and created here locally, or somewhere between this state and North Carolina. I'm not sure exactly. And that's kind of a crossbreed between a couple of others, but I don't remember what. Oh, bloodhounds are expensive, Diana. Save up your lunch money. I went to school with a young lady. Her and her husband, I had classes with her, and she was talking in class one day about that. And they'd gone out and bought a bloodhound puppy, and this was 98, 7, 8, somewhere around maybe 99. I can't remember. It seems to me like they paid $800 for that puppy back then. So you can imagine how much they've inflated since then. And Mike says, Diana, no more dogs. Hang in there, Diana. Brenda keeps saying that to me too about no more cats, no more this, no more that. I ain't worried about it. Although, I hear you. I heard the free part. I heard the free part, Tina. I'm not sure Teddy's ready for a dog friend right now. Although they've been around dogs, we've always had grand dogs, so they're always over here. Don't know about a hound dog though. Nina was a blue tick. Oh, maybe that's one I was thinking about. Yeah, Danny is just a huge hound, and Morgan is pretty, but no blue ticking. And now they're howling at the grandfather clock. Is it bonging? We did something in here one day and got them to howling. I don't remember what that was. It's about 2,300. I kind of figured they were getting in that ballpark. Oh, I mean, everybody might not appreciate this, but I can, because that's the kind of thing my wife might tell me. She said, shut up, Tim, go eat a donut. Whatever, Mike, go eat a donut. No more dogs here, even if they are free. Oh, now, Mike, you don't mean that. How many do you have, Diana? Just 2 or a whole bunch? Those, blood, or not bloodhounds. Well, they were too, but basset hounds were trained to be hunting dogs. It's too bad they don't still do that. They'd probably make a good one. They got a great nose, I understand, and they're close to the ground, so picking up scent would be no problem with them. And they got those big old ears, which is and bloodhounds use their ears to help gather scent, kind of like big scoops, We have 2's enough. No more dogs. Oh, Diana, I hope I'm still know you guys in a couple of years, or in due time, and I'd like to hear the end of that, the result of that, down the road. Oh, he would, Diana, especially if it was a puppy. I mean, nobody can resist a puppy. And that might be the trick to, getting to keep it, as if it's a puppy. And you can always use the excuse we did, kids. Well, it followed me home. Okay, I knew they were pretty good. I knew they had pretty good sniffers. Our dogs will howl when I try to sing at the grandfather clock and other random things. Yes, Tim, they howled at something a few weeks back. I can't. You did mention free, Tina. Where I'm trying to encourage Mike right now. Kay says my cat is hunting right now. The bath mat doesn't stand a chance. Teddy was hunting this morning, Kay, but he was hunting his little sister. He couldn't catch her. She plays a game with Teddy. It's kind of not fair because she's little and quick and wiry. He's pretty fast still, but he's way too big to be real wiry or quick. But she'd go by and here he'd come zooming around the corner. He sounds like a team of hounds running through the house, and and then Chloe would be hiding somewhere, and he'd be looking for her, and then she'd dart through and run around the couch again, and here he'd go after her, but he never did catch her this morning. If he ever does, she may be in trouble because he's about 3 times her size. Aren't you, bud? Of course, she's got really sharp claws right now, and she has sliced his nose up a couple of times. Okay, guys, I'll tell you what, I think my butt and myself has had probably enough, and you guys have probably had more than enough. I appreciate everyone who's come in. Please consider hitting the like button or the unlike button and subscribing if you're interested, or go check out some of the other videos and see if you find something interesting, possibly educational, possibly not. If you sit and listen to Mark and I very long, you may find you're regressing back in time. I'm not sure. But I appreciate your time this morning. I thank you all for coming in. Again, I kind of apologize for the random topics, although I do enjoy this too a lot. But this week with Brenda's mom being in the hospital and everything was just kind of hectic around here. We weren't sure when we were going to be there, when we were going to be here, and at first it sounded a lot worse than I think it really was. I'm not sure who I would put that on, but as it turns out, it sounds like it's not that bad, and she's going home today, so that's good. Hopefully, it won't flare back up. And just so you know, she thinks that the cat had bitten her cat, and it was because of some things going on in her house. I shan't lay blame yet about that, but she thinks that's what it was. And she thinks it got infected, and then she was either convinced that or something, that it had gotten into all of her joints in her body. She's kind of bad about reading, looking up, diagnosing herself, reading a lot of things online, and then finding, reasons for disease and maiming type things. So I don't know if there was some of that going on, or if she was oops, I forgot to take Diana's comment down. But then they were worried about sepsis, so we had to, make, because that could have been, she's 85, and while she's in pretty good health overall, she's become a lot frailer than I guess we like to think sometimes. She is showing it now. She seems to be declining a bit faster now than she did. But, I'm not saying she's on death's doorstep or anything. But anyway, it was Brenda was really upset because she was afraid she might not be there if something bad did happen. So we had to fix all that. And then they started calling back and saying, well, that's, it's not sepsis, and it may be something else. And she's probably calling me and say, hey, Mom's listening to this. You better shut up. Let me see. No telling how long it's going to take. She's eating lunch. Okay. Let me make sure she's not listening. She's going to eat lunch, and then they're going to discharge her, I guess. Might as well get a few more dollars out of her. She's not there, and I don't think she's listening. I kind of hope she's not right now. But like I said, hey, Michelle, good morning. I'm not going to say who, but there was a guy named Mike in here earlier this morning was going to call and wake you guys up just because, because I told Garrett we were going to. Michael and Bella, thank you very much for stopping by, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you here again. And I'm going to check out, if you have a channel, which I assume you do, check that out too, and see what you guys are up to. Thank you very much for coming in. The bad part about this, Michelle, is you got here just about in time for me to sign off. I am, oh man, that made me dizzy. Yeah, I've been here I made it longer than I thought I would. My derriere is starting to ache a bit from sitting, so. Well, it was my idea, Mike. I'm going to admit that. And I didn't say it was Mike Cabral. It could have been Mike Wheeler for all anybody knows. See, you blew that. You could have let that ride. We could have blamed it on Mikey. Last night I woke up at, I don't know, 5 o'clock at my house or something like that, and I found that he was online. I told him to go to bed, and then before I went back to bed. I told him I was going to call him this morning and wake him up. Which part are you sorry about, Michelle? Don't be sorry for Garrett. I should have called and woke him up, but I didn't want to wake you up. Yeah, we've had extraordinary guests today. Mark, one for World of Walter's dad, Walter, his dad Mark was here. Michael and Bella, Travel Channel, were here. Have been here today. We've had a good little turnout for somebody who didn't have a particular subject today to talk about, except for squirrel chasing. But we've chased some interesting squirrels, so to speak, officially. Burial practices, northern lights, baseball a little bit, family illnesses, cats and dogs. If you're interested, Tina's got some free dogs if you need a new dog. Just throw that out there. And she emphasis on the word free. I'm sure on some days she'd be more than happy to send it to you. Special delivery. Okay, I'm safe. She's officially not listening to the show. I didn't know for sure Brenda had gone in there with her phone on so she could hear us say, hi to her or anything. After I spoke, I realized I probably shouldn't. Only Brenda says she doesn't realize how much she complains. And no, she doesn't. But she does. Well, I do too, so what the heck. Yeah, everybody have a great day. Michelle, I don't know what you guys are up to today, but I hope you're all well. I hope Hannah and Gabe are well. Usually I know they have some extracurricular activities on weekends, so I don't know if that's going on. You can, if you need to wake Garrett up, if he's still in bed, you can always wake him up and tell him I told you so, because I would. Brenda's mom is doing much better, Michelle. That's what we were just talking about. She just called me, and she's going to get out of the hospital here in the next little bit, and go home. Brenda's going to stay with her at least for a while, and maybe overnight. I'm not sure, but she has family that live, 200 yards. Well, not even that, 100 yards from her front door. So she's real close to folks up there if they're available. Nobody seemed to be available today to take her home from the hospital, so Brenda had to get up early and get up there again to do that. But that's okay. And but she's coming home. I guess the worst thing they thought she could have had going on was sepsis infection, and maybe that's one and the same thing. But you know what I'm talking about. And it had gotten into her joints and that kind of thing, which has turned out not to be the case. So that's all good. But she was running a fever and she had some infection going on, but they've beat that down and taken care of it. So it's all good. She's going home today. We'll get to hear all about it all week, I'm sure. There's a long story about the cat, and that's one I'll probably not go into right now, but let's just say it's been a sore spot amongst certain people. Thank you, Tina. You have a great day. Volleyball tournament today at what? Great news. What's the news? See, 7 a.m. So 10 a.m. our time. So you guys had to get up early? See you, Ian. Thanks for coming in, buddy. Always. Glad to have you anytime, all the time. Well, I got to know about the volleyball tournament, guys, before I shut her down here. Hopefully Michelle's going to tell us. Oh, well, that's probably, okay. Duh. I should have thought of that, Tina. Thank you. Okay, everybody. Yeah, she is. She's going to go home, and I don't know what all that she'll have to do once she gets home. I don't know if they're sending any special instructions or medications to her, but she can go home and get in her own house and, complain there for a while. So she'll be okay. Sounds like. She's from California, Michelle. Well, technically she lived in California. That's where Brenda was born. Her mother lived out there for a good while, but they were originally Okie, so I'm not sure at what point, she became an official Californian. But Southern California, so, you guys don't have to take any of the blame for that. All right, everybody, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to stretch my booty out over here on the couch for a little bit and see if I can't beat some of the aches and pains back for a little bit. Anyway, you guys all have a great weekend, and I'll see you around the internet somewhere, I'm sure today, some of you anyway. And if I don't, then I'll see you next time. Oh, they lost the first game already. Oh, I'm sorry. And you guys all have a great weekend, and I'll see you again real soon. And we got some good shows coming up, so keep your eyes open for notifications. I'll try to do a much better job than I've done the last few days. Bye-bye. Good Lord's willing and the creek don't rise. We'll be right back here again next week.